just to backtrack a little bit, I know we had some discussions about this a few months back, but we were approached a few years back about the possibility of them putting a roundabout, and they had some safety grant money, I believe federal money, that they had identified Dragon Drive as being a place to install a roundabout due to safety concerns there because of the number of vehicle accidents. My understanding, based on the report, is that the incident data came before 2018, that they took incident data of the traffic issues there. So I began as principal, around that time forward. So I was there 17, 18 school years, first year's principal, but I'd been there a couple years before that as AP, and then I had been there as a teacher. So I knew there was a significant number of accidents there. There continued to be a number of accidents after 2018, and I know that this project was centered around safety money, and it was identified as one of the places they wanted to have a roundabout to try to mitigate some of those concerns for students, especially coming in and out of there. It's a very busy place, for about 45 minutes twice a day for 180 days a year. But it's also a busy place for other events because we house other things there. So that was kind of, I think, the original thought, and I believe they came to the county government to gain support for it at the time, and the county had to agree to some conditions as far as some upkeep and moving of water lines and some things that they were going to incur as expenses as a result of this. So fast forward a little bit, it kind of sat stagnant for a while, COVID. There wasn't a lot that was brought to us, but the original drawing that they presented and produced for us, I have a copy of, but it's within this file as well. And the document that's on the screen is the public project packet for the DOT that they produced, and it has the traffic studies in there. It has a couple of different scenarios they looked at and why they ultimately decided on the drawing and the ultimate rendering that they produced here. So I did not get real involved with this until taking over this role, and there began to be more conversation about, is this going to come about. We obviously requested and discussed with the DOT our concerns back in in January of 2023 this year about the ramp, the wrecks ramped up, the number of accidents there. The first 3 weeks of January, we had some issues. So we worked with the DOT about, changing the signal there. And it was in April that they did get this completed, early April. And to my knowledge, since that point, we have not had any issues there. So as a result of the red light like we had before.
I'll talk to you.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of, it's kind of been an ongoing process, I think, for a while, as far as, the process of getting it started and getting support for it. So, but this document here just gives everything the DOT produces in regards to meetings and engineering recommendations and drawings, everything associated with the project. So this is called Project Concept Report, and it's available publicly.
Do we have a visual of the latest?
Yes. So,
The latest, I guess, diagram.
yeah, absolutely. So, we've got, this is the latest drawing that I know of as far as what we have discussed with the layout and the design of the roundabout with the right-of-way. So I can walk you through some of this. The red lines are the DOT right-of-way estimates where they're trying to get to. They've got to purchase some land. This can't really tell, it's an overlay on this. You can see it a little better on the map, but that the current edge of the state route or business 53 is somewhere around the middle of the roundabout there in that drawing. So they're having to work with landowners on both sides of Dragon Drive and that land across from the intersection now, which happens to be all three of the same landowners, which is Walter Davis, Tate State. So my understanding is, they're going to have to acquire that land to make this possible. And I think there's discussions going on about that now. Our sign, of course, is part of that it'll be the northeastern corner of the land coming up Dragon Drive on the left there. So that's where our sign is involved with the expansion of that lane would have to come down. The concern there, or the issue with the sign, is we're not real sure where we would put it back. It can't go inside the roundabout. It being on one of the sides of the other, we got to be off the DOT right away, and then we don't know how far back they're going to grub the trees so that there would be visual. I mean, it's not going to be good to have a sign up in the woods. Obviously, we got to have a clear view. The whole purpose of the sign is let people know that's where the school is and announcements. So that's really the only part of this that is our possession as far as our property of any way, is having an easement to the sign itself, access to be able to service the sign, power utility access to be able to power the sign, because we don't own Dragon Drive. We don't own land on either side of Dragon Drive, and of course we don't own anything near 53 and nothing on the opposite side of the road. Y'all remember we dealt with this when looking at paving Dragon Drive. We had to go through the legal part of that. It's actually just an easement afforded to us to get to the property that the Tate State made a way for us to have the 136 acres to get to the high school. So that's the latest rendering. And when you go through the report, it does show you where they looked at multiple scenarios and multiple ways of doing this, even signals, changing the signal without a roundabout. And their studies are based on the current, but also projections. From what I understand with the project manager, he walked me through some of that. They're looking at the now, but also down the line as far as traffic studies and projections. So, where this kind of caught me off guard when we started talking about right-of-way options there and the sign moving, is the first time I was presented with this drawing to see, and I was like, well, when did this come about or whatever? And of course, we got somebody else on the phone and had a conversation, but that was a little different than what I had been presented before, and that's why I brought that, to the attention of the superintendent and to you guys, because, it just looked a little different shape, a little more compact as far as the lanes coming in, and I don't know what they ran into or what real, purpose why they changed the design of it, but it is a little different, and the main difference being the lane coming into it from the south that would take you into Dragon Drive and not require that you get in the roundabout to access Dragon Drive from the south. That was, they had the bypass lane on the headed south side going from north to south, that you can bypass basically the roundabout to come through. But that was one concern, that it just, it's a difference for sure, a major difference. But we talked through that, and he just told me that the engineers and everybody involved, that was one drawing, and this is what they settled on as being the best suited fit for that location and for the traffic studies that they had done. So again, the landowners the landowner that is on all three sides there, I know that's being discussed now with them as far as what they have to get this in there, because it is going to be bigger than the current intersection right now, obviously, what they're going to take up to do this. So I don't know exactly where that negotiation stands with them. I have spoken to their property manager. He reached out to me and was asking me some questions there. So that's what I know up till this point. And they are, as y'all know, wanting to make, they want us to get the sign taken care of, because that's got to happen before they can, progress on. And then I've just kind of told them to hold tight till we meet and talk and figure out how we want to, go forward and try to deal with the sign, because we can't take it down and put it somewhere out there now, because we don't know. Number one, we've got to get permission from the landowner to have access and easement to the sign, but we don't really know where it's going to be hard to place it now, not knowing exactly what it's going to look like down the line if this project continues and comes to fruition. So that was my concern, is I don't want to try to put something somewhere and then we do all this work to move it and spend money to move it, and then it's not visible. So that's the only That's the only real property that we have is the sign that we own down there.
Okay.
So we'll make sure I make that clear.
If I understood you correctly, you said that they're using more current data now to make this decision?
So the data they're using, I believe, is based on up to about 2018, the traffic studies they did. So it's from the report, what's in the report. I've collected, there is current data out there that I've collected from the DOT site to show. Now, there have been, all the way up through January of this year, there's been wrecks out there. I mean, it's been a long-standing problem of there being wrecks at that intersection, which I think is why it was identified as a safety issue there. But since the turn signal, the protected arrow was put in, which I greatly appreciate the DOT jumping on, and I know they skipped ahead some things to make that happen for us, because we were pretty concerned in January. We transported 3 wrecks, multiple kids through that process. So I do appreciate that protected arrow. I just, we haven't seen the same kind of incident or data since then either.
Well, my concern is we're making a decision based on data that's so far back that doesn't take into account that red arrow, which my understanding, what I've heard from people, is that the wrecks, the number of wrecks reduced substantially once we got that red arrow in. So why are we making a decision on this based on information way back in 2018?
So I think the study all has to do with when the
And I know you don't work
study.
for DOT, I'm
No,
just
ma'am,
asking you.
but I think from what I understand in talking to those folks is, because I asked a similar type question, was, well, the project was, the money was released or whatever, and the project was done then, all this work was done ahead of time when the money was released and it was started talking about being an actual project. And so I don't have an answer as to why it hasn't come to fruition before this point, but my understanding is now they're getting fairly serious about moving forward with it, and they're using the data that they had for the original, because I think it's gotten pushed back, the project's gotten pushed back. I don't know why, but it was slated to be done several years back originally. I do believe that was the intent, and we've been delayed, them actually starting it. But I think they're trying to move on now with that, start that process. So
My comments still stand.
yes, ma'am. So any other questions I can answer? for you?
Slightly off topic, but while we're talking about drag and drive, the restriping is complete.
Yes. Yes, so the restriping is complete, and we picked that up at the DOT right, or the current DOT right of way, which is pretty far down Drag and Drive. Down there is a pavement gap there, and we went ahead and striped everything through there to make it more visible. It was certainly a day like today where it's dark and dreary. It was concerning. I've had many folks from transportation reach out, and we were over there yesterday, and we had some really positive comments, appreciation for that, and that was something we did, obviously try to make Drag and Drive in general safer, because we do have a responsibility to maintain it, of course, and we are going to be paving it, in the near future as well. So that's, it's only a few hours, a couple, 3 hours a day that it's, very busy there, but those hours, you got a lot of people trying to get to one place at the same time. You got a lot of student drivers, you got a lot of adult drivers, buses, parent drop off. There's a lot of traffic in and out of there. I would say in that 45-minute gap of time, somewhere between 500 and 700 vehicles coming into that place. Some of them coming in and out. The students and the staff drivers coming in to stay, and the parents and the buses coming in and leaving. So you kind of count them double, I would say, coming back in and out of the place. So there's a lot of traffic there at that time of day. Plus it's a thoroughfare, so you've got people, it timed out, sorry, but you've got people coming also through there that aren't associated with Drag and Drive, that aren't, part of the school traffic, that are going to work or, going somewhere else, maybe to another school, drop a kid off if that's their thoroughfare to get there. So it is busy.
Well, when Mr. Jasperse is more involved with this conversation, I'm not saying you should be now, but I'm just saying I would like to, at some point, talk about what other intersections were considered and what was why did this intersection come to the surface?
Sure.
That's a question I'll
To
have.
that end, Rick, you want to join the discussion?
Sure.
State Representative.
Glad to be here.
Is
Sorry,
this
I've been,
already done?
Sure, anything else I can answer about how we got here, or what I know about
No,
the
you
project?
just stay.
We may have some follow-up.
Sure, yes.
Stay close.
good. Sorry, been in Atlanta since Tuesday, so just made it here. Yeah, I'm aware of this project for a long time. Sue, to answer your question, probably why it got moved up is me. About a year ago,
Okay,
knowing that this was a project that I've been talked to about, now I'm the chairman of the Transportation Committee, and it was important to them to get it done. And I was just thinking about it, I talked to Grant, who is the chief engineer for this area the other day about it, when Tommy brought it up to me. You gotta know the one thing, safety's number one to them. I mean, just,
it is to us too.
and so they're gonna always err on safety. I mean, I had the biggest argument ever with them when they put the J-turn up at Antioch and 515. Which, they had, at Antioch Church Road at 515, we had a couple of people die.
Like
I mean,
that bus
numerous
wreck.
injuries. I mean, since they put it in, 0. They were very happy. Last year, I requested a thorough study of all intersections in Pickens County on 515. And the funding, we've got it, we paid for it. I'm almost positive the contract has been let to look at all those intersections on 515 because people want traffic lights, and they've come to the just very true realization that traffic lights slow traffic down, but also increase injuries. Same as y'all have had since the high school's there. I've seen wrecks when I took Bob and Mary Alice Elizabeth there over the years, and that's where they're coming from. And traffic, circles are not anything new. I've talked to the Tate Estate about it. I wouldn't be in any hurry because they're gonna protest. I mean, they're gonna make them pay what it's worth, not just what they sent over there the other day. So there'll be quite a discussion about that with them. They'll probably go to court too, I would imagine. What they would like to see changed on that is an exit in the roundabout into their property there on that big flat spot. Yeah, right there.
Right.
They would like to see that, and so we're going to try to see if that can be integrated into it easily.
They want an exit right there?
Yeah, onto that property.
Okay.
We'll see. I don't know. I don't know how they do that. So. But that's where it's coming from. I know the sign is your biggest issue.
No, that's not our biggest issue.
No.
Well, that's what I've heard.
No, that's not true.
Okay, let's
It's the
do
only
that.
asset we have down there, but it's not our
Rick,
biggest concern.
one of the things we've proven also since we put that light up,
We
we've
had no
reduced all
problems.
the wrecks.
Sure.
And so that just seems like it's gonna be chaos for people coming in and out when you got a direct sign that tells them what to do now.
You'd
And that's-
think that, Joe, but when I got wind that they were gonna put that roundabout at 372 and 369, I said, that will be chaos. But it's not. And it's one of the few intersections on 369 that there's no backup on. And there's no accidents. The accidents that happen are bumper to bumper, side to side, people not paying attention, they're on their phone. But there's no injuries there. And unfortunately, as y'all know, our community is growing. And I think GDOT's looking at, that's gonna be a major thoroughfare. It is now, because right now, if you went over to 515, it's backed up for a mile and a half. It's backed up for a mile.
What about the first rendering that we seen actually had 2 lanes coming off
In and
from the
out.
southbound going up to Dragon
You
Drive?
got that picture, Chris?
And now it's got,
Possibly.
Yeah.
now that's a safer,
That's the only one that I've seen.
No,
So
well,
you
that's
have that.
that's not what was originally proposed.
no.
Well, they probably looked at it and saw a different, a better, safer way.
I
I
can
know y'all
imagine
are,
that was safer, Rick, than what they originally had.
well, I know the district engineer is gonna meet with you next week, is he not?
Well,
I don't
he's offered to, and, but that was originally, we had the work session on that next Friday, so I wanted to see where we went from here.
Yeah.
But he has offered to, come up here and,
Sure.
and be part of a meeting or session or whatever, but, we're not having a work session next Friday, we're having it on the 12th.
Well, I think you'll find Grant be very articulate, and he'll have his data and why he did what they did, Steve. They're not, and I found, I mean, I work with them all over the state right now on all different kinds of projects, and they rarely go off half-cocked without a really darn good
This is-
reason to do what they're gonna do.
That's the original.
See, show him right there.
I see it.
Can you see the,
I see the difference.
okay.
This is.
So you got a lane going in and a lane coming out.
Yeah.
Now, that's a lot safer, you know? I still don't like the idea of having a roundabout.
Now, one thing they did change too is, if you'll notice on that other one, it's like a D. There's a edge of this cut out here on
Yeah.
that other,
I did notice
and
that.
and that way, this lane is simply a bypass. It's a bypass lane. And so, maybe, I don't know, but when they did that, I don't know if they had to shrink. I mean, this is a lot bigger of a, as far as taking on property and whatnot, I think it took up more of a footprint. That one did. I don't know if they ran into some kind of environmental issue, Mr. Jasperse, I don't know what happened over in this area, but this was taken out, that right turn lane in. So let me add this too. I worked at that school for 12 years, every day in and out. And so I've lived on this side of town and been coming this way, and I've lived on this side coming in this way. The only rule of roundabout is yield to the left, correct? That's the traffic rules, yield to the left. This is where your continuous traffic comes in. Everybody agrees to that from town, from Jasper, okay? This way right here, for anybody trying to go through the roundabout or in the drag and drive, both will have to be stopped until this is clear coming in. This is, before we put this red light in with the protected arrow, we sometimes got backed up to Hamrick Insurance, Dunbean Hill. I mean, it's a lot of traffic coming in there. So you could conceivably, because everybody's coming at one time, these people here don't have another way to even get in the school, and these people coming around the roundabout can't go until there's a yield right there. They have to yield until this is clear. So I'm not saying it's constant for an hour or anything, but there's a time of day where it is pretty constant. And if it wasn't, the red light and the arrow wouldn't need to be there to let people in. So it is pretty constant for a 15 or to 30-minute period there every morning and every afternoon of coming in and out. So that's one concern that's been just brought to me of eliminating that lane.
Well, and if the Davis, that was probably on Davis, was wanting basically a fourth leg put in there to make it
Accessible.
same concept as a four-way,
Correct.
then in time, that red light configuration would have to be changed if anything were developed on, I guess that's the west side
Correct.
of 53.
Yeah.
So
And
that
Tommy, I
does-
don't know if they can do what they're asking, you know, I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
But that would be something to
The way you
consider.
fix that though, you put leave the red light there with it, if you're gonna have to have a roundabout. That way those people that are, that way they don't have to yield. You got a light telling them what to do.
What are our statistics since we put the red light in? How many accidents have we had?
I don't know of any accidents we've had of nature of what we had before, which was somebody turning left from Jasper, turning in the drag and drive and getting T-bumped. That's where the serious accidents are happening with injuries, to my knowledge, has not been.
and so you'll hear them say, whenever there's a traffic light, that's the problem. I mean, even if there is a signal there. I mean, you go to the hospital, I guarantee you, within the last 72 hours, there's been a serious accident at the hospital.
Oh,
And there
me
are
too.
no less than 5 lights with flashing lights going southbound now. I mean, it's
So they have
just
still a
distracted
flashing yellow.
driving is the
Yeah.
problem. I mean, that's just get right down to it.
They replaced that flashing yellow there.
The
with
flashing
red.
yellow was the
Correct.
problem.
Isn't that right?
Although I have no, I just looked at it the other day and I saw lights.
They put a double red arrow, protected arrow there like we have there. They used to have it.
But it's
The problem
just-
there is the site, and of course, we're talking about two completely different traffic patterns
Yeah.
and a number of people coming through.
And it's just the problem is the distracted driving issue. I mean, as you have today, if there's close calls or accidents is what we have to live with.
We're gonna have, one of my concerns too is having young drivers. They're learning a lot of different muscle movements to drive, just to thinking about this and looking here and there. And then, I mean, when I'm presented with a roundabout, I mean, it's, unless I travel it every day, it's really something to be careful about, because I feel like I'm at a greater risk for a wreck. But these kids are just young drivers, and I
It's a great place. I mean, the bottom line, it's a great place to learn. I mean, if they're gonna go in and out, because if they drive within 30 miles of here, they're gonna run into roundabouts everywhere. I mean,
Okay.
north, south, east, and west, they're building.
That's true. And you said, do we have any information on other intersections? I mean, I sat through 3 or 4 traffic lights just to get here, so, before I could go past
Like where,
Walgreens.
well, I've asked for the safety control study on 515, but where are you asking about?
I'm talking about 53 Walgreens,
Yeah,
before you turn to Appalachian Tech. Also, I mean, another thought was Tate. Tate is really getting backed up quite a bit.
there's one somewhere in their planning,
Okay.
whatever their planning is at Tate for a roundabout.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of people bypassing, getting around 515, cutting through one of the crossroads, trying to get over and avoid 515 because it is a mess in that road. Yeah.
We're having discussions with them about the size, and that's my concern. When I talk to the other side of transportation, the movers of heavy freight, some of the construction methods with leaving an edge, I think, Tommy and I talked about the other night, there's some things they need to do. I brought it up within a meeting I was in with them today to look at, but that's neither here nor there on what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, Rick, I think when all of us were initially presented with this, I mean, my thing is, a lot of people don't know how to operate in a roundabout, and we've got tons of young drivers, they're exposed to this right away. And that, by and large, the community, their feedback to us is they don't want it. I mean, by and large, I'd say at least 70-30% thinks it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And so, and my concern is all their data was taken 5 years ago, and our big question was the data taken at the 2 points in the day where there's the most traffic coming through there? And nobody's been able to answer that question. Because 24 hours or 23 hours of the day, it's not an issue. But there's a 1 hour window, morning and afternoon, where it's a major issue. And was your data taken during that time? So,
I don't know if is that.
well,
You asked me a
that was one of my
question,
questions for the data that was taken. Was any of it taken during those 2 points of the day when it's the most active? Versus, I mean, because like I said, if they come here and did a traffic study,
No, I think
23
that-
hours of the day is not a major issue. It's that 1 hour window, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, when you're pushing 700 cars through there.
I guess I don't know that they did a traffic study. I know they did an injury count, or whatever it is that they do. I forget the name of it.
Analysis.
Yeah.
My understanding is they did traffic studies. There's a lot of stuff in this report. It's 164 pages. So I think the way the studies work, though, are based on the 24-hour span for a specific period of time, but then it's divided up, of course, 24 hours a day. So I know they take into account night hours and all that, but I don't know how they specifically took in our unique situation, because it is a little different than what you would have in most intersections where it's more consistent traffic coming through versus what we're piling in all at one time there for about 45 minutes morning, 45 minutes afternoon.
And I would assume that the consultant, whoever, one of the consulting groups, Wolverton, would probably be able to answer exactly when, what they did, how they took it, what day they were here. I mean, that's pretty simple.
Yeah,
You know,
our area
just-
engineer would probably know that.
Pardon me? I can't hear
Mr.
you.
Jasperse would. I mean,
I really can't hear you.
I said the area engineer would know that.
Oh, yeah,
information.
yeah, I haven't seen that report. I mean, all I've seen is the,
All we have is what's in this report, and I think they pretty much put everything they have in there. It's a pretty comprehensive piece of document that they put available for the public.
Well, a secondary thing is if they do this, they go ahead with it, I also have concerns about 18 months of construction and pushing all that traffic through there. While
I don't know how they
construction's
did it at 369. I've watched it. I go through there every other day, it seems like, and I was shocked. They're pretty talented.
Well,
It's,
yeah, I'm not doubting that.
Well,
Use your
Fingerprints.
lockdown, sorry.
it's
What do
pretty-
you feel, how do you feel about it, Rick?
Generally, Joe, I trust GDOT and what their decisions are, because they're looking, number one, at safety and movement of people, and they're looking 10, 20 years down the road also. We don't tend to do that. We tend to be what's now, what we think right this second, and they don't do that. They can't do that. The improvements for a road take 10 to 15 years just to get them done. So that's generally where I go with them. I didn't fight them, but I pushed back pretty hard on the J-turn idea. Because that was the first one that been done in Georgia. They're going in, I think there's like 12 under construction right now. Just because I didn't like it, I didn't know it. Steve, you talk about something you don't know how to contend with. You go to that J-turn the first time.
Yeah.
But you figure it out pretty darn quick. Everybody at Andy Alton Church Roads figured it out. And with very little injury or issue.
Well, I'll tell you, if they're gonna do this, I will say this, if we can't do this original one where we provide those in and out lanes, I'm really not in favor of it, because I think that's a real problem.
I agree with that.
And I'll tell you why. I go to the high school every morning, 7:15, and I'm coming from town because I no longer scoot across Camp Road because they need something there other than a four-way stop. But when I'm
Another
turning,
roundabout.
huh?
Another roundabout.
Oh, I did not say that. I don't think I'm put one here. But as I'm turning left, of course, the light with the arrow stays green. I don't know how long, but it's a great amount. I can come from the top of the hill all the way down and still turn. There's a lot of time there. It really gets backed up when you're coming north from Tate and you're trying to take a right. As long as that light is for us coming from town, their wait is that long on the other side. Which by all of that, I want to say, they need a lane to come in. If they're coming from the Tate side, and I'm not doing direction, but if they're coming from Tate, they're gonna have a lane. Because if we make them wait without a light that gives them the opportunity to go, we're gonna get backed up down to Tate.
My concern.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's kind of what I was getting at with
Yes.
left turn yield.
Yeah.
Same idea of.
Well, and they'll still have those extra lanes going in, and anybody trying to enter Dragon Drive going to the high school would have 2 lanes all the way down to the high school under this original plan.
Right.
Correct. Because
As
it's
far
2
as-
lanes where that ends, where you can't see in the top end of that.
I think it just heavily favors all of the traffic coming
It's
from
already 2
town.
lanes there.
Well, one thing, and y'all heard me say this before, one thing I'd like everybody to consider in this is 25 to 40 years ago, we heard about outer perimeter in Georgia, just continuously, outer perimeter, and a lot of short-sighted people who are now either deceased or no longer able to drive follow that tooth and nail. And as somebody in the transportation industry, and any of y'all going through Atlanta, know that would be a godsend to have that outer perimeter now. But everybody fought it. For that reason, I have pause when it comes to the roundabout, because they clearly knew more than the rest of us did 30 and 40 years ago with an outer perimeter. They may know more than we do, but this original plan is more palatable to me than the most recent one, because it does give separate lanes entering and exiting, where you can handle the traffic better at peak times.
Let me ask you this, Rick,
Yes, ma'am.
just for my information. First of all, I don't believe theoretically in second guessing professionals. Hey, I'm not a doctor, I don't go on Google to find out what's wrong with me necessarily. And if my doctor says to do something, I tend to trust them because they've gone to medical school longer than I have. So I do want to honor the professionalism and the expertise that they have. When you have a community that it really does appear that most of the folks, or at least a lot of the folks, don't want this to happen, and I'm still to be convinced myself. How much credence does the DOT give to that, or do they just plow on ahead and say it's for your safety and we know better?
I don't think anyone, zero people wanted the J-turn at Talking Rock.
What's your answer?
So they do it, whatever they want to do at that.
It's just about, I mean, because safety's gonna, Joe's gonna be their number one issue. I mean, they're gonna, I mean, that's,
That's a very political answer you gave, thank you.
I mean, you know, I just try to be straight about this stuff, but that's, you know, and that's
No, I
where
just
they,
wanted to know.
you know, I mean, that's how they, I mean, that's how they really have to go at it. I mean, because the engineering standards are gonna dictate straight up what they can do based on the amount of traffic, and then we can reintegrate in accidents in the past or future, and they're looking down the road. I mean, it's pretty just black and white.
But,
Sounds
but,
like
you
you
know,
just
but
packed
but
it.
acknowledge though, Rick, it's changed now. Matter of fact, Chris has all the history with this. When this was going on, he had asked them to change that arrow, the previous administration, not DOT, and they did, nobody pursued that to get it done. And so now we're in a situation where we've done that and we've had 0 accidents for this many months. And so we're operating off of data when there was a real problem that doesn't exist now.
I made a note of that too for you, Steve, but they're gonna look at now, 5 years, 10 years, I would
Yeah.
assume.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't looked at this report, I don't know if you have either, but, you know, to look at it and see what kind of data they use to make their decision.
Mr. Jasperse, can I ask a question that Mr. Lau had asked a minute ago?
I'm sorry you and I haven't met.
I know.
We have
Travis Thomas.
we have attempted to, but it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine. So Mr. Lau mentioned 18 months. Is that kind of what you're under the impression of in terms of the length of time if this were to happen? Or is that
I have no idea. I've not
Okay,
seen the
okay.
report. I don't know what they're,
Okay,
I have no idea.
okay, that's fine, that's fine.
And the way that 18 months was generated was out of this actual document we're looking at here. That was the estimated time, and I'm sure it's a little high, but
Okay.
that's what they, from time to start clearing, grubbing, what they call brush and trees, till completion. The engineer and I did talk about that process too. He did tell me the signal would be in operation there in some form during that time. You know, that the signal would be in operation continuously through the project. So that was a concern I had too, with just the timing of, I mean, it's a long time, of course, for, you know, project, but I'll, you know, I'm basing off of too what I saw in Talking Rock Lane, you know, about a similar time frame.
It seems to me we need, Grant, I believe you said was his name, we need more information from him. He's closer to the project, I guess, but biggest thing I've taken from this is there may be a dispute over the property from Mr. Davis. So this may be a moot point
So,
for quite some time.
We're not gonna give it away. I don't think, you know, Walter and them, they're not gonna.
So Rick, let me ask something. If it's a foregone conclusion, we're gonna get this, do we have any power to get back to this original one?
Sir, I think it would be a great discussion with Grant to see why, he's a district engineer, why they changed. What was his, you know, his, if I'm not mistaken, this was a local engineered project, meaning it was done by the engineers in Cartersville, not the Atlanta engineers. So that's better to me on local projects because they're seeing it. So they have a reason. They just didn't, was it money? Was it whatever that I wouldn't have to
Yeah,
do.
that was actually our concern, is that it was money and it was a cost savings.
Yeah, that would, you know,
So if that's the case then, Rick, it would tell me safety is not their number one priority, if
well,
it's
I'm not
based
gonna
on
chase
cost.
that. I mean, I'm not gonna chase that in jest.
I know.
That's not, no.
I know. Well, but you've advocated that it's all about safety. But if they cut it because of cost, then.
Well, that's a great speculation, Steve, but
Oh, well, I
I'm
understand
saying-
that, but that's
I'm
a
saying,
reality.
I say, we don't know. You bring the district engineer
Right.
to both and just ask him why.
Right. But we might get a political answer too.
No, I don't think, they don't really do that much.
Okay.
Generally there's a straight up black and white, you know, engineering standards dictate certain things, and then how does it work out? You know, and that, you know, that's what it's mine, and I've said in meetings all over everywhere the last year and a half.
I've got another assignment to do.
I was trying to look here, there is in here 3 or 4 scenarios that they considered in this project, and it's in here. Take me a minute to find it, but there are some rationales listed out to this, in this report, of the different considerations of the configurations considered. So,
Do all of y'all have a copy of the report? Do you like one? Well, we could get it, I'm sure it's no, well, I mean,
Well, Chris has got it.
yeah, I got it.
You could type in.
Sure. I can share.
So, Chris, do you know this? I mean, what we're looking at here though, is all of this associated with the original design that we saw?
All of the data.
Not the one that was presented to you in the last 6 months?
Yeah, all of the data in here is from the original study, but it outlines both considerations, and it gives a rationale for why this one was chosen in a report in here. I just got to find it.
Well, that's fine. I mean,
And they've got, I don't know it when I see it, I'm pretty sure it's in this document that they provided. There's a ton of data in here about the study and about crash data. They looked at the benefit cost analysis and some other items, configurations they use.
I just called her, she told me that she was in a comment, so I asked her to give me a message.
Well, obviously, the original would cost more than amount of concrete to put in there. From those designs to separate those lanes would be much more expensive. That's pretty obvious.
I think you'll enjoy talking to Grant. Grant's very
Yeah.
straight, you know, he's, in all that world, he's probably one of their better district engineers that I deal with. I really enjoy him.
So I believe this is the part I'm looking for. So there's, let me back it up here.
While he's looking for that, who decided this location? Did somebody in their department just say, okay, this is what we're going to do? Did they get any input at all?
Oh gosh, I've heard about this project, Sue, for 8 years at least.
Yeah. The original
Dang.
document that's in here that got county, not county board, but county government approval was in November 2018, I believe, or 15,
I've heard about it for a long,
2015.
a long time. You know, they went through a little, I mean, it's just kind of a roller coaster getting them done. In COVID, of course, slowed everything down. Also, the impact of cost of materials is kind of,
Yeah,
as you know, as y'all do things, but
but you don't know who made the decision?
well, I think I think the community was very interested in doing something way back then. I know I was as a parent, you know, that they needed to do something, needed to happen there, just the traffic volume. I mean, you know, I saw somebody pull out from a bus one day down there. So, I mean,
They say you can't fix stupid.
This is one, thing they looked at, a continuous green T, that was another. I mean, they did put several options in here of things they looked at for that intersection of different designs of roundabouts, but also what they call a continuous green T. Shows like delay time, and it shows a lot of rates and projected reduction of incidences. All of this stuff is in there. So I know I'd read that in this report of exactly what the rationale was for the alternatives that are presented. And one of the alternatives considered is that the original, and it went somehow from what was presented to the number one choice, and what was originally presented as the alternative. So, for some reason, I mean, I don't know that answer. What it has to do with.
So are you saying, which I mean, actually, I would like to see this full thing, but are you saying that the original one with the 2 lanes is in there, and then the one that we've got now, was it also one of the ones that was in the original?
It was a consideration. Like, my understanding is originally they looked at 3 or 4 different concepts, and the only one I knew about until 3 months ago, or whenever I met with the right-of-way folks, I didn't know that there'd be another one, because I mean, I wasn't continuously looking at this document or anything, but it came up. So he lays out on the hood of the car at Drag and Drive there. He's showing me some things, and I'm like, whoa, what's this? He's like, well, this is the latest drawing. I said, well, this is not what we had. I had my backpack with me, so I went and pulled it out. And he's like, I don't know. Let's call the project manager. We call the project manager, and basically, my understanding was this was determined to be, based on the study, the best alternative. I don't know what all was considered in that study or factored in, but that was considered to be the best concept that they had. I don't know when that changed or when this was considered. I just know we originally were looking at the one with the 2 lanes. I do know that was the original that was presented to the district, because I was the principal when it was presented.
Okay.
Do you feel inclined to share your opinion with us? Would you rather remain neutral?
I will be 100% honest. So I have, from the start, I was not a fan, and here's why. I wanted to try, as a taxpayer and someone concerned with local and state funds, why we wouldn't try a few $1,000 solution before we went to a $3.4 million solution. Okay, that's my opinion. But I do trust the DOT, and I have seen these work. And yes, the one at 369 is fantastic. It's massive. This whole thing would fit inside that one down there. It's massive. But it has to be. It carries a lot more truck traffic, a whole different scenario down there, understand me. But I would have liked to have seen us try that, and my preference would be that we collect more data on what we got now before we go forward. That, if I could recommend something to DOT, I would say, let's collect a few years like we collected on the data that's in this report of what we have now. And, you know, my kid goes in and out of there every day. I don't want anybody to mistake that safety's not my concern. My kid drives in and out of there. Steve's kid drives in and out of there. Amy's kid will soon be driving, I assume, in and out of there, or can drive in and out of there at times. So, and we all have had kids there, or got kids going there, or know somebody that has kids. Everybody's concerned. I think everybody's got the same concern in mind. I think it's a different situation than most DOT projects. I'm not saying it's the only one that's at a school, but when we were originally brought into the fold on this, we were taken to one similar size that they were considering at a school. It was not close to the school. It's at North Murray. It's on 225, not nearest travel to the highway. And North Murray has 3 entrances to their high school, and the roundabout's not even one of them. So it was apples and oranges, in my opinion. At that point, I was not on board. As it kept going along and we got this concept, I finally kind of got my head wrapped around it, like, okay, it's happening. Okay, we need to make the best of it. Well, my head was wrapped around that original drawing I had, and then we kind of got hit with this other. So I'll just leave it at that. My opinion is we should collect more data on what's there. Maybe the DOT doesn't want to do that, but it seems like it's going to get held up anyway. It might work out to where we have time to collect that data anyhow. Trust me, I'm not the principal there anymore, but if there's a wreck there, I'm going to report. They're going to let me know. I'm going to report, and I will know about it, right? So the SROs or Sheriff's Department, they'll let me know. And so my thought is we continue to collect this data as we go along and as this is in negotiations. But I'm getting, even today, got an email about when are we gonna sign this document about this sign? And so I've just told them we're meeting today. I would give them an update back. They're just doing their job. I'm not upset with them. They're doing their job. So if we can collect that data along and then kind of see what we run into and then document any issues we have down there, then I think that works out with, I don't think it's gonna move as fast as we all originally thought when they came and talked about the right of way because of the landowner dispute, it sounds like. So we might have time for that to give us that information. I don't know, it's just a thought, but it is working well right now. I can tell you that. We've had a few timing issues that they have been so accommodating to work on. Mike Govis has been awesome, and he's answered my phone call whenever I call him and talk about it. They've been incredible there, and I appreciate what they do, and I do trust what they do. I think they've got the same idea in mind that we do. They want to make that intersection as safe as possible. I do believe that in my heart. I just think we have two different perspectives of how that should happen.
Go back to the old one again, please.
This is the new one.
Yes.
I've gotten pretty familiar with this document, but I don't have it completely memorized.
I was just coming to say hello. I picked the best time.
It ain't got too hot yet, Parker. You'll just hang on.
I'm scared to go back out here. They didn't. This is the second hottest place in this room.
Yeah, I started to say.
That's it, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm with Stevie on this one. You know, I'd be a whole lot more in favor of this happening if it was something like that. Whether there's an easy accessible to go from Tate going into Dragon Drive, and there's an easy coming out of Dragon Drive going toward Jasper. And everything ain't just jumbled up right in the center. You know, I don't know how the engineer's gonna look at that. I don't know how they come up with the reasoning. But now I'd probably get on board with this one. The new one I'm not on board with.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's gonna change again if they make some concessions to the landowner on the opposite side from Dragon Drive. This is gonna be far from the final, and if they're anticipating a long drawn out process getting the easements they need, then folks, we need to go to supper. We're not gonna come to anything final here today.
I think you'll enjoy talking with Grant. You'll find a very methodical, logical guy. He'll explain.
Does he make house calls?
I think he's coming here to Pickens County. He's up here. I have him up here quite often.
Okay, good.
All right.
When can we make that happen?
Well,
Is
he
he
was
actually-
wanting to, I mean, he was offering to come to the next board work session, and I told him tentatively, it usually is the week before, but I know we've changed this one, so I will need to call him if y'all wanna make that
Yeah,
happen, and I'm sure
that'd be
he'll
great if he
do his
could
best to
make
accommodate
that.
that if he's available. He seems like a
Well,
sensible
that'll
guy.
answer some questions, but in the end, I suspect we're a long way from getting anything final that we can look at, because I do know how these easement disputes go, and that may take years. We may get lots of that on what we're doing now.
Well, you know, Walter Davis can be very benevolent as he was with y'all on Dragon Drive and the property. You just don't know. I mean,
But we can get a little more information from him.
Well, Rick, thank you for coming.
Yes.
sure.
Appreciate it.
I do appreciate your time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Has anybody got anything in? This work session is adjourned at 5:05.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.